Today, we're diving deep into the secret life of one of nature's most stunning creations, the flower. We're going to uncover the incredible story of how a delicate little blossom transforms into a ripe, juicy fruit.
I mean, think about it. It really does seem like magic, right? One day you've got a tree just covered in beautiful flowers, and then a few weeks later, you've got an apple that you can actually pick and eat. Well, it's not magic, but it is a pretty incredible biological saga, and we're going to break down exactly how it all works.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll meet the flower itself. Then, we'll see how the key players get ready for the main event. We're going to follow what I like to call the Great Pollen Race, and then witness a totally unique event called double fusion. After that, we'll watch the seed and fruit develop, and we'll finish up by looking at some of nature's absolute cleverest shortcuts.
All right, first things first, let's meet the star of our show, the flower. This beautiful structure is literally the stage where all of this incredible natural drama is about to unfold.
Okay, so a typical flower is designed in 4 elegant layers or whorls. On the very outside, you have the calyx. Those are the little green sepals that protected the bud. Then you have the corolla. Those are the big, bright, colorful petals designed to attract pollinators. And then we get to the business end of things, the androecium. That's the male part that makes all the pollen. And right in the very center, the gynoecium, the female part that holds the precious ovules.
Now, before any of the real action can kick off, the reproductive cells, the actual players in this story, have to get created and get ready.
And what's so cool is that there are 2 parallel journeys happening at the same time. On the male side, inside every single pollen grain, a cell divides and ends up producing 2 male gametes. Meanwhile, on the female side, tucked away inside the ovule, a different cell divides to create something called an embryo sac. This sac holds the egg cell and, now, you gotta remember this for later, a central cell that has 2 polar nuclei inside.
So, our players are ready. Now it is time for the game to begin. This brings us to Section 3, the Great Pollen Race, which is the critical journey we call pollination.
So here's the challenge. You have to get the pollen from point A, the male anther, all the way to point B, the female stigma. And since plants can't exactly get up and walk around, they need help. They rely on nature's matchmakers. For plants like grasses, it's just the wind. For some underwater plants, it's water. But for so many others, it's insects, birds, and other animals, all recruited to bridge that physical gap between 2 plants.
But here's a fascinating little twist. A lot of plants actually try to avoid pollinating themselves. To keep their gene pool fresh and diverse, they've developed what are called outbreeding devices. Some plants are actually self-incompatible, meaning they can chemically recognize their own pollen and just reject it. Others have their male and female parts mature at totally different times. It's all about mixing things up.
So, when the right kind of pollen grain finally lands on the right stigma, it's like a secret handshake. The stigma recognizes it, gives it the green light, and the pollen grain starts to germinate, growing a tiny little pollen tube. This tube then embarks on this incredible journey, tunneling all the way down through the style, on a direct mission to find the ovule and deliver its precious cargo, those 2 male gametes.
And this brings us to the climax of our story. This is the most unique, most innovative part of this whole process. Section 4, a unique double fusion. This right here is the signature move of all flowering plants.
This event is called double fertilization, and it's basically what it sounds like. It's a super complex process where not 1, but 2 separate fertilization events happen at almost the exact same time, all thanks to those 2 male gametes that just arrived.
The magic number here is 2. Seriously, everything hinges on it. 2 male gametes, 2 fusions. This is the evolutionary innovation that has made flowering plants one of the most successful groups of organisms on the entire planet.
Okay, let's break this down, because it's absolutely brilliant. The first fusion is pretty much what you'd expect. 1 male gamete fuses with the egg cell, and this creates the zygote, which is going to become the future plant embryo. But the second fusion, this is the masterstroke. The other male gamete fuses with those 2 polar nuclei we talked about, creating something called the endosperm. And the endosperm is just this super nutritious tissue that acts as a dedicated food supply for the embryo. It's amazing. It's like one fusion makes the baby, and the other one packs its lunch for it.
So, with double fertilization complete, the flower's main job is done, and a whole new phase begins. Let's move on to Section 5 and see how these microscopic little structures blow up into the seed and fruit that we all know.
This process kicks off a total cascade of growth. The zygote starts dividing and becomes the embryo. The endosperm develops, packing itself with food. The entire ovule, which now holds the embryo in its lunchbox, matures and hardens into a seed. And at the exact same time, the wall of the ovary that's surrounding the ovule starts to swell up, developing into the fruit. The fruit is basically the protective and often very tasty packaging for the seed.
Now, just when you think you've figured out all the rules, nature goes and shows you it has some incredible workarounds. Let's check out Section 6, Nature's Clever Hacks, which are a few special ways that plants can reproduce.
So first up is something called apomixis, and this is a totally mind-bending trick where a plant can produce seeds without any fertilization at all. It just completely skips the pollen and the fusion steps, and the result is a seed that's a perfect genetic clone of its parent. It's like a plant hitting copy-paste.
Next is a hack that you have definitely eaten before, parthenocarpy. This is when the ovary just decides to develop into a fruit all by itself, without any of the ovules inside getting fertilized. And if there's no fertilization, there are no seeds. The most famous example in your grocery store? The banana.
And finally, we have polyembryony. This is when a single seed ends up with multiple embryos inside. It's basically like having twins or triplets all packed into one seed. This happens a lot in citrus fruits, so if you ever plant a lemon seed, don't be shocked if more than one little seedling pops up.
So whether it's through that elaborate dance of double fertilization or one of these clever shortcuts, it all comes down to this. The entire point of the seed and the fruit is to protect the next generation, to help it travel to new places, and ultimately to ensure the survival of the entire species.
Which, brings us right back to where we started. That simple piece of fruit in your hand, that tiny little seed, it's not so simple after all, is it? It's the end result of a breathtakingly complex and successful strategy that's been perfected over millions of years. So the next time you peel a seedless banana, maybe you'll remember that you're about to enjoy one of nature's absolute cleverest tricks.